All right. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's call. My name is Jennifer Schmidt, and I'm very, very happy to share the launch webinar for version 34 for Therefore Online with you. Unfortunately, I can't see or hear any one of you, but I still want to interact with you. And in fact, getting questions and hearing your responses is one of the most important and one of the most fun things for me on any webinar. So please use the Q&A to ask questions, make some comments, and let me know that you are alive, because that is really something that's very special and important to me. You might have noticed just a few seconds ago, I did start recording this event. So it will be available for you to review and share on our YouTube channel, Therefore TV. And you can then check it out and share it with anyone who you would like thereafter. As always, my name is Jennifer. I'm a member of Therefore's digital engagement team, and part of my responsibilities include creating and conducting webinars, as well as creating e-learning content. So of course, I will be talking about the new e-learning content that is available for this new version of Therefore. But before I start talking about the new features in this version of Therefore, I do want to give you a review on how our release cycle works. So here at Therefore, we have 2 new releases every year. A big one in the spring for Therefore on-premise and Therefore online, as well as a secondary release just for Therefore online every fall. So this release today that we're talking about is going to be only for Therefore online customers. Therefore on-premise customers will receive the features in the spring with the main release of Therefore 2026. There is one exception this year, and that is the eInvoice connector will be available for on-premises customers as well. In fact, I believe an update has been already scheduled, so theoretically on-premise customers can already receive it. So in practice, what does this release cycle look like? It means that we have here online only in the fall, and then online and on-premise in the spring. And so all new features that were released here were included in this release here for the on-premise customers, and so forth and so on. So you can see we've been following this release cycle for many years right now, and it is very successful. So of course, since this is the fall release, only Therefore online customers are going to be getting these features. And we have many different online systems around the world so that our customers can connect to the data center that is closest to where they are. And we've already updated most of these data centers, as you can see here. So we're talking about the EU, which is going to be updated tonight on November 24th. And we only have Australia and Japan following. So this gives us a great opportunity. All the other data centers have been updated successfully. And so we're really excited and confident that Europe will also go perfect. And like I mentioned before, I do a refresher training every year with every release. And so, of course, I encourage all of you to go through the refresher training to learn how to use, install, and configure all of these new features. To get an account and access the refresher training, go to extranet.therefore.net and then click eLearn, and you can have a free account where you can access all of our e-learning content, including the new refresher training. So what are we talking about? What are the new features that are coming in this new release? Well, we've got a lot of really great ones. The first new feature is going to be an integration with Copilot, which is Microsoft's AI companion. Then I'll be talking about the eInvoice connector, which is a huge topic, extremely important for Europe and the invoicing sphere. We'll talk about improvements to Passkeys, security enhancements, importing configurations, web client improvements, as well as some other improvements as well. So a lot of really valuable and wonderful new features. So let's talk about the Copilot integration, because that one is the most interesting, I would dare to say. So we're thrilled to announce our first new feature, the integration with Copilot's Microsoft Premier AI Assistant. The integration empowers you to extract valuable insights from your data, enabling you to work smarter and more efficiently than ever before. So how does this work? Categories from Therefore are made accessible to Therefore Graph, and then Therefore Graph uploads those categories to Copilot. And Copilot accesses the data that's in Graph in order to bring new insights and answer questions that users might have. So one thing that you'll notice is that there's no direct connection between Therefore and Copilot. It's all done via Graph, and it's not a two-way connection. So it's really just Therefore to Graph, and then Copilot accesses Graph. So we are bringing the data to Graph, which makes it available to Copilot. So let's talk about these technical details. The initial release of the feature is going to be in preview mode. So in this mode, user permissions are not updated with the documents, and information from the categories that are selected in the Graph connection will be uploaded to Copilot without a list of access permissions. This means that users with access to this Graph connection in Copilot have access to the information coming from Therefore, regardless of any permissions configured at the category or document level in Therefore. This preview mode will end once the feature is upgraded to include the upload of Therefore permissions. Once the Therefore permissions are uploaded, users who have a Graph connection can only ask questions and will only be able to receive answers about the Therefore documents which they have permissions to access. So this means that in the future, the same permissions that are in Therefore are uploaded with the Copilot integration so that the connection remains secure and sensitive information is not divulged. Now you might be interested to know, when will preview mode end? So at the moment, our developers are hard at work, and they're believing that they're going to be having the permissions upload configured by the end of the year. So we can expect to see this quite soon, probably in January or so, when the update will be made available on Therefore Online. But we shall see. In any case, the ultimate end version of this will be a very secure and controlled way to allow users to gain insights and get more information from the documents that are in Therefore. Talking about licensing, users or companies will have to buy a Therefore connector license for Copilot, and then the customer will also have to get Copilot licenses from Microsoft. In addition, we will need users to have authentication via Entra ID, which allows there to be a connection between the permissions in Therefore and in Copilot. So I'm sure all of you are very curious to see what is interaction with Copilot like, what kind of questions and insights can be gained. Well, the answer is it's very simple. Any interface where Copilot can be used to interact with Therefore. So a user can open up Copilot, for example, in Teams or in Word, ask a question, and then get the answers there. I do have a demo video with sound that I'm going to play for you now to give you an idea of the types of interactions that you can expect to see. So let's watch the video.
Copilot user.
I can't hear anything. Let's see here. All right, let me just quickly review here why I wasn't able to hear the
Copilot
audio.
Copilot user experience. Let's explore 3 powerful ways Copilot can help you unlock insights from your data faster, smarter, more efficiently than ever before. Demo 1, candidate selection and job interview. In our first scenario, we're hiring a marketing associate at Moyaware. The role requires 3 to 5 years of experience and a bachelor's degree in marketing. We've already received several applications, all stored neatly in a category within Therefore. Thanks to our integration with Microsoft Graph, Copilot can now access that information instantly. Let's put it to work. I'll open Copilot and ask for help in choosing the best candidate. Well, I could just say, "Hey Copilot, which candidate should I pick?" That's a bit too vague. With AI, the better your prompt, the better your results. So instead, I'll ask Copilot to summarize what I should look for in candidates based on the job ad. That way, it understands the context and the criteria. As you can see, Copilot responds with a clear summary, plus a link to the source document, so I can verify the info directly in Therefore. That transparency helps avoid AI hallucinations and ensure accuracy. Now that we've clarified the requirements, I'll ask Copilot who best matches the job criteria. In just seconds, it shortlists candidates, highlighting their experience and explaining why they're a strong fit. Based on this, Emily Carter and Sofia Ramirez stand out. Now, let's prep for the interview. I'll ask Copilot to generate tailored questions for Emily Carter using a professional but friendly tone. And just like that, we've got a great set of interview questions. A quick copy-paste into Word and we're ready to go. Demo 2, HR leave policy clarification and email creation. In our second use case, I want to take a few days off, and I'm turning to Copilot for help. We've saved company policies into Therefore, so I'll ask, I want to take 3 days off. What does our vacation policy say about that? Copilot quickly summarizes, I can take 3 to 5 days off as long as I request it a week in advance, submit it through the HR portal, and notify my department contact. Now, who exactly do I need to inform? I ask Copilot, who do I need to inform? I'm in the marketing department. Boom! Copilot gives me the answer. Priya Kapoor is the right person. Let's go a step further. I'll ask Copilot to write the email. I'm planning to be out from November 1st to 3rd. Draft a message I can send Priya Kapoor to request the time off. Here's the result. A professional, polite message ready to send. All I need to do is copy, paste, and hit send. Demo 3, MoyaWare Symposium. Our final example shows how Copilot helps summarize complex project documentation. In this case, the MoyaWare Symposium, a large conference we've been planning. We've stored 8 sets of meeting notes and Therefore covering every step of the organization process. Let's ask Copilot to identify challenges we've faced while organizing the event. Right away, Copilot groups the issues by topic and links to the source notes, so we can dig deeper if needed. Now let's ask something more nuanced. What dietary restrictions do caterers need to consider? Interestingly, this info isn't in one place. It's scattered across 2 sets of meeting notes and even phrased differently as dietary requirements. Still, Copilot connects the dots and finds it. I'll open up one of the cited documents. There it is. The AI picked it up without needing a perfect keyword match. Plus, we also have halal, vegan, and gluten-free. Vegetarian meals are mentioned. Now, let's get creative. I'll ask Copilot to generate sample menu ideas based on the dietary needs. Here's the result: a thoughtfully curated menu tailored to different dietary requirements. Honestly, I think it sounds delicious. What do you think? From shortlisting job candidates to understanding HR policies to planning corporate events, Copilot and Therefore work hand in hand to deliver fast, intelligent, and actionable insights. It's not just automation, it's smart assistance that empowers you to work smarter, not harder.
All right. Thank you guys for watching the video. And thank you also for everyone who'd let me know that you guys could hear the video. For some reason, when I was speaking, I could not hear it immediately. And then a few seconds later, the audio came through on my side. So that was odd, but you guys helped me out. And I really appreciate that because it's always very nerve-wracking to be the presenter and then have something like that go wrong and not know, is it just me or is it also on your side? So you guys really saved the day. Everyone who wrote me to let me know you could hear the video, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So I did get a few questions here, which are really good. So the first one was just about the data center in Europe. The European data center is operational. It'll be updated tonight. The next question that we have is the Therefore Copilot integration. You need 3 licenses. They are a Therefore connector license. Then you also need a Copilot license from Microsoft. And then you need to be authenticating using Entra. You need an Entra ID because the Entra ID is what will control the permissions and the authentication process between Therefore and Copilot. And of course, you need a regular Therefore system as well. Good. Then the next question that we get is each named license with the Copilot connector has its own Copilot chat. So the way it works is in Therefore, you mark which categories should be uploaded to Microsoft Graph. Let's go back to the slide, the previous slide here, where we have this very simple interface. So you mark in Therefore which categories should be uploaded to Graph. Then you make a Graph connection in the background on your Azure interface, and then you create a Copilot agent. And an agent is a specialized AI chat environment, which is told to prioritize information that comes from this Graph connection. And the agents, you can have multiple agents running on your system, and they are then made available to the users who are using Copilot. And so the users need to have a Copilot license, which is purchased from Therefore, and then they also need to have permissions to access the documents that they want the answers about. Regarding Copilot, are the limitations on the types of files it can extract data from? So yes, the answer is documents, content, and the document title is uploaded to Copilot, or to Graph, I should say. Index data is not uploaded. So of course, you can adjust the way a document title appears so that important key information is made available, but index data is not uploaded. The reason for that is the way that Therefore handles index data permissions is extremely complex. We can even make it so that certain users have the rights to view only certain index data and not others. And this complexity is something that Microsoft Graph cannot handle. And so as a workaround, we just simply said we will not upload index data at all, but we will upload the document title, which can be configured to include key information. But of course, a document title should never have any sensitive or confidential information within it. So this is a good workaround for ensuring that the most important index data is available, but not sensitive data. Another thing is that any documents that contain images will probably not be very useful to Copilot because it is text-based. And that's another important consideration is just the way that AI works and the way these large language models are constructed. They really specialize in language and text activities. They're not analytic tools. Many of us might be familiar with some of the shortcomings that AI has had in the past. And so we recommend using this for more language and analytics and not as a statistic or reporting tool. And that's just a general recommendation on how AI should be used in general, which actually is a very good question because it brings me to the next part of the presentation here, which is just a general recommendation about how to use Copilot, when to use it. So I've received an overwhelming number of questions about use cases. So on the screen, you can see two types of shoes, running shoes and an elegant pair of high heels. I wear both and I enjoy both shoes, but I don't use them for the same types of activities, right? Likewise, there are a number of effective applications for the standard search features and therefore, and then there's other reasons why you would want to use Copilot. And they're both good use cases, but you wouldn't want to use them for the same thing. So I'm going to take a moment just to explain when should you use Copilot and when should you do an index data search. And the reason is a lot of people have been asking me, oh, can I use Copilot to tell me how many workflows are overdue or how many unpaid invoices do I have in my system? And the answer to that question is you don't need Copilot to do that. Use a standard search and therefore do a database query, do the search features that have been already available for decades at this point in therefore. That's a really important consideration is one is that index data is not uploaded to Copilot, but also the accuracy that you're going to get by doing an index data search for questions that have a clear yes or no answer. It's always going to be superior if you just query the database, do a regular search. You can easily find out how many workflows are overdue or how many invoices remain unpaid through regular search and therefore. And just to give you underscore the importance of this, I have this little little story that I want to tell you. So AI is getting better all the time, and probably next month or next year, this might not even be relevant anymore. But as of right now, it's still quite weak with numeric analysis. And this is a real life example that my daughter experienced last month in her English class. She had to write a description of a crazy looking bedroom. And she wrote a description that says, in my room, there's a red phoenix, a swimming pool, 7 pigs, and all these other things, a Lamborghini and all this other stuff in her room. Then her teacher asked her, okay, write this room description in English, and then type it up, put it through ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT to generate an image. And this is the image that ChatGPT generated for my daughter's homework. And you'll notice it has a red phoenix, it has the yellow Lamborghini, a swimming pool, but what's missing? How many pigs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. She had said 7 pigs. So clearly that's wrong. And she got really upset. And she was like, why doesn't it know has 7? The teacher's going to get mad at me that I didn't do it right. Am I not smart enough to use AI? And I said, no, it has nothing to do with you. It's just that AI is really bad at counting. And then we did an even more simple test. We asked Copilot to generate a picture showing exactly 3 pencils in a pencil case. And what happened? It made 4 pencils. So this is just a common issue that AI have right now. And it's a general warning on what kind of use cases should be done or should not be done, unfortunately. So I do have a couple of questions here that I would just like you to consider. And in the next slide, I'm going to just verbally say some different scenarios, and you guys can try to answer for yourselves and try to think, what would you do? All right, so this is a fun game show called AI or Search and Therefore. Number 1 is how many invoices saved to therefore are overdue? Would you ask Copilot or would you search and therefore? Well, you would search and therefore. How many workflow tasks are currently in progress? AI or search and therefore? Again, search and therefore, because this is something that's really visible in the index data. And number 3 is help me summarize the project meeting notes from the past 3 months. That's Copilot. Copilot can do this exceptionally well. What about translating a white paper into another language? Oh, AI, again, fabulous. So with these examples, I hope this gave you some ideas on use cases for Copilot and also really good use cases for some really tried and true features and therefore. Now, we did get some more questions. Are there worries about the LLM scraping data from therefore, especially regarding sensitive data, to train their models? So the way so first of all, only data that is made available for use with Azure, with Copilot is going to be uploaded. So this is number 1 thing. Number 2, every Copilot tenant is its own. So this is another security feature that we have, or in general, how Copilot is working. And number 3, I would say for businesses that really are concerned about Copilot, Copilot is being pushed extremely heavily into all facets, all businesses. And if you really enable Copilot, Copilot has full access to your emails, to your Teams chats, to everything. And so for businesses who are concerned about the security of this, they should disable Copilot. And then this is not the correct integration for them. However, the way that this connection is set up, it's set up in a very controlled way so that the administrator and users are only going to be accessing documents and information which they would see anyways and therefore. So it is of course, a security issue in some ways, but it is something that every business can decide for themselves. But thank you for this question. It is a very relevant consideration. Good. So I'm going to move on now to the next portion, which is the eInvoice connector. So the next part here that we have is the eInvoice connector. First of all, what are eInvoices? When you just hear the name, you think it's an electronic invoice, something I get in it by email. What's the big deal? But actually, when we talk about eInvoices in this context, we're talking about a very specific type of format. This is an invoice that has embedded XML data. Some formats might be pure XML, and others might have a human-readable PDF with XML embedded inside. So this is similar to the PDF A4 that we talked about some years ago. And this is really important because there is a directive EU-wide, a directive 2014-55, and a European norm EN 16931 that says all invoices need to carry structured machine-readable data that has been put into a specific type of syntax. And many European countries are now moving towards making e-invoicing mandatory so that companies have to receive and or issue invoices in this type of format. The benefit is, of course, that they are machine readable so that the invoice processing is very, very fast. You no longer need to manually key in all of the key index data line by line. Since January 1st of this year, it's mandatory in Germany for businesses to accept these e-invoices, including the pure XML format, which is not human readable at all. And this means that e-invoicing is becoming really important, of course, around the world, but especially in the EU, where many businesses are going to have to contend with this in the very near future. So with the Therefore eInvoice connector, invoices are simply uploaded. You save them to Therefore category. This starts a workflow, which takes the invoices, puts them into a recognition service, and then it figures out what kind of format this is, extracts the key data, and then saves it as index data back to Therefore. And it takes seconds. It is so cool. It works really well. You don't need to sort your invoices at all. And it's done using this recognition service. It's not AI. This also means it's extremely cheap. You buy the eInvoice connector and you can use it as much as you want. There is no charge per invoice. It's just a flat fee. The benefits for this, of course, are compliance. because you can now receive these e-invoices, which is very important for EU businesses. It's automated, it's basically guaranteed almost like no errors, and it's a flat fee. So again, we have another slide here showing exactly how this works. You have this special e-invoice, which has this XML data in it. The workflow uploads it to the recognition service. The index data is saved to Therefore. And as an optional benefit, Therefore can also generate a human readable PDF version of the invoice in cases where the e-invoice was just pure XML. This is in cases, for example, where in Germany, for example, there's an e-invoice format called X-Rechnung, which is just XML, so it's complete gibberish for humans. And so that you get a nice human readable PDF as part of the workflow as well. And it's available for Therefore Online and Therefore on premises in the EMEA region, and Therefore manages all updates and maintains the connector. So it's an excellent service, and it's really something that I think is going to be extremely important because we know e-invoicing is the future in Europe. So I do also have another video here. Once again, if I can't hear the video and you guys can hear it, please let me know in the chat, just so that I have peace of mind. All right, guys, thank you so much. I can hear it.
eInvoice Connector User Experience. Welcome. In this tutorial, we'll walk through how to use the eInvoice Connector to extract data from electronic invoices. The process is simple and efficient. No need to pre-sort or manually prepare your invoices. Just save them into Therefore and let the connector handle the extraction for you. Let's take a look at how this works using a few different types of e-invoices. In our example, we're starting with a folder containing several invoices in various formats. First, we have an X-Rechnung invoice. This is a purely XML-based format. Next, there's the Zugpferd invoice, where the XML data is embedded within a PDF file, as you can see here. And finally, we have a standard PDF invoice from Utes Catering, which doesn't include any XML data at all. To begin, we'll drag and drop all three invoices into the appropriate input category in Therefore. We'll select the option to save each one as a separate document. Next, we'll start the eInvoice Connector workflow. This triggers the upload of each invoice to the eInvoice recognition service, where the system extracts and stores any available XML data. After refreshing the workflow, you'll see that each invoice has been processed. The description field for each one updates automatically. One more refresh, and you'll notice the workflows have successfully completed for all three documents. Let's review what happened with each invoice. First, the Zugpferd invoice. By opening the workflow history, we can see that the XML data was successfully extracted and processed. The workflow completed without issue. All the relevant index data from the invoice has been saved under the technical processing category in Therefore. Next, the X-Rechnung invoice. Since this format contains only XML data, the connector created a human-readable version of the data, which you can see here. It also preserved the original XML file for full traceability. Again, the workflow history confirms that this invoice was processed using the eInvoice connector, and all index data was successfully saved. Lastly, the Utes Catering invoice. This is a regular PDF without any embedded XML. As expected, no data was extracted during the initial processing step. However, notice that the document has been automatically moved to the Smart Capture input category. This means it's now ready to be processed by Smart Capture, our AI-powered recognition service, which can extract data from non-XML documents like this one. And that's it. As you've seen, the eInvoice connector can handle various invoice formats, automatically extracting XML data when available and seamlessly handing off standard PDFs to Smart Capture when it's not.
Good. So that was a brief intro to what you can expect to see with the eInvoice connector. And I did get some comments that e-invoicing is also becoming mandatory in countries like France, and I know it's getting important in Spain and Portugal. So I believe it will be mandatory throughout the EU because of this directive 16931 very soon. So this is definitely something to keep in mind. But we don't have any more questions, so let's move on to the next great new feature in this version of Therefore, which are Passkeys. So Passkeys, I am sure most of you have been using Passkeys, you're familiar with them. It's a new secure way of logging into online accounts. It's faster, easier to use, and more secure. They rely on public key cryptography to verify your identity rather than a username or password. This means when you log in, you can use a biometric data like your fingerprint or facial recognition or a PIN that's stored on your device. And it's very easy to configure. Go to the solution designer. Under user accounts, the administrator can simply select if Passkeys should be mandatory for everyone at the organization, available for everyone at the organization, or mandatory or available or disabled for just certain users. So you have a full flexibility as the administrator if you want to roll this out or not. And it can be set up within seconds. So what does the user experience look like? We have a very brief GIF here. As you can see, you're just logging in, and then Therefore will open up again. So again, here it says login with passkey. Then you are prompted to enter your PIN, which is how we've done it here on Windows Hello. Say OK. And then Therefore automatically opens. So it's just a different way of logging in for the end user. And of course, you could also configure the passkey to use biometric options or whatever your device has available. And it's free of charge. This is a completely standard feature now, so there's no additional license fees. Now we're in the part of the webinar where we're talking about enhancements to the web client. Many of you already know that the web client is something that we have been working tirelessly on for the past few years. We're trying to bring the web client up to the same standard as the installed client. We want it to be the most modern and easy to use way of accessing Therefore. The web client is, of course, our online tenant or our online client. It means that you can access Therefore folders and workflows just by typing it into a web browser. You don't need to install any software on your machine. And now with the newest version of Therefore, the web client has many new features, but the one that I like the best is the one that I put here first, which is easy anonymous forms. Many of you who are experienced with Therefore will know making an e-form available for anonymous users used to require a bit of configuration, and it's now so much easier. You just create a new form, then save it. And you can see here we have a new form ID, which is also a new feature. Then you click create, make the form, save it. And then once the form has been saved, you can simply go to the eForms here, right click, and then you can say here, create link. And you can then just say it's anonymous, copy it, and then you're ready to have that link that you can share with others so that they can access that eForm easily from outside the company. So much easier than before, much faster than before, and it's something that I'm sure all of us will really appreciate. Another really great new feature in the web client is that we can now have a URL that gives you a direct action to something in Therefore. So if you're using the web client and you frequently perform the same search, for example, you're doing the same index data search for the same supplier or the same keywords. That search can be seen in the URL, and that URL can be saved so that you can easily redo that same search over and over again. This is amazing. I think this is going to be a real game changer because I know from my personal experience using Therefore internally, oftentimes you want to access the most recently saved documents, for example, which you could also do with the direct URL. You could see on your workflows, you could see which are the workflows that have been assigned to you or overdue workflow instances. All of those types of frequently done activities are a direct URL that you can bookmark and you can easily access. It's also a bookmark that you could, for example, add onto a welcome screen or onto a dashboard. And so I think this is a really convenient and fast way just to get better use out of your Therefore system. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. What languages are supported with the eConnector? Do you support Lithuanian? Great question. I actually don't know, Julius. I'm going to follow up with you because I don't know if there's any language limitations. So, but if it's, I would expect if the invoice is, I mean, it's the key data is the syntax of the syntax of the invoice. So if the syntax is supported, then I think the language should be supported as well because we're really working with the XML data. But let me ask our developers, and please also send me a sample eInvoice of the format that you guys use in Lithuania, and we can test it. All right, moving on to another new feature, which is called Better Table View. So if you have table data, which is, for example, the type of format that you would see in line items on an invoice, we now have a separate little window that can be opened up and you can better view the data. So you can open it up into this separate window. The line items or the table items can be selected, they can be duplicated, they can be altered, they can be drag and dropped into a different order. And so you have a lot more options, of course, only for users who have permissions to edit the index data. But this was a highly requested feature, I think, for a lot of companies, especially who are doing types of invoicing or they want to be able to edit data that's in this type of table. And they're going to find a lot more use cases and it's going to be a lot more convenient for them. Then we have some enhancements to Smart Capture. Smart Capture is our AI-based invoice extraction service. So it uses AI to extract data from invoices and other financial documents. And one nice feature within Smart Capture is that you can set up supplier matching. So you can upload supplier data to Therefore, and then when Smart Capture, the AI reads out information on an invoice, it can compare to see if that information that it read out matches the information that you have in your supplier database. One really common way that customers use this is that they have a supplier table with the IBAN number, the international bank account number, which they would use to transfer money to. And previously, the supplier match showed the supplier ID number, but it often didn't show the IBAN was shown, and it was hard to see if the IBAN was really this supplier name. And now more information is shown, so it's very clear to see if you have a correct match or not. This is also really interesting for security in case you receive a fake invoice that has a falsified IBAN number. You can really see, okay, does this IBAN number on the invoice match the IBAN number that we have in our database? And if there's a discrepancy, Smart Capture will let you know, and then you can go back and you can contact the supplier who sent you the invoice and say, hey, did you change your bank account information? And if they say no, it's all the same, then you know that's a fake invoice. All right. And we have one final new feature here. Oh, I got 2 more questions. Any news on the PDF issue on the web viewer? I don't know which PDF issue you're talking about. I'm sorry. Please contact our support for that. Yes, and the performance of viewing PDF documents has been improved in version 34. So they have improved the way large documents are handled. So it should also be much faster to view large PDF documents. That was the question. Thank you. So that is also improved, but there is nothing to show for that. It's hard to do a demo, but yeah, viewing large PDF documents has been greatly enhanced. All right, and then the final new feature that I want to mention is we have enhancements to setup and importing configurations. So there are two ways this has been enhanced. The first way is that now when you create a category, a workflow, or an e-form, we have the name, and then there's also an ID name, which can be chosen by you. So it can be a human readable name. This is quite technical, so I will explain this assuming that you are familiar with configuring therefore in the backend. Previously, when you created a category, the ID name was made by the system. So you had names that were like by the cat 51, for example. Now, when you create a new category, the category name is going to be chosen by you, but also the category with this. So that means that when you are importing configurations, you can very easily see if it belongs together. The table name, so the names that you're going to be using in scripting or in connections with REST calls, it's more human readable, which makes it just much more easier. And if there's any discrepancies, for example, if you're importing it from one system to another, it will also remain consistent. We also have web service credentials that are stored in a central place for ease and convenience. So if you open up the Solution Designer, you have a whole list of all the credentials for the various third-party systems that you're connecting to. These can be encrypted, these can be secure, and this also means that if you're doing a workflow, for example, with multiple REST calls, you only need to authenticate once to make this much easier and more efficient. We also have other enhancements. We have more security options for editing Office files in the web client. So if you want to edit an Office file on the web client, this is done over OneDrive storage. There's now more options on how the link is handled that controls the editing in OneDrive. We also have enabled PKCE support for OIDC. And we also have support for short wait task times. So those of you who have ever configured a wait task workflow, or a workflow that uses the wait task, you might have noticed that very short wait times were sometimes not respected or just were inconsistently working. This has been now improved. So for those of us who are doing a lot of demos where we have very short wait times on the wait task, it works now. So that's really good as well. And I would be remiss to not remind you one final time about the refresher training, which was released on October 28th. I highly encourage all of you to go through it. I think it takes maximum half an hour or so. And that concludes the webinar. I do have one question here let's just see what the thing. Yes, someone is very happy that the web client has been improved. So very glad to hear that. Excellent. And I do want to mention that I have one final webinar coming up next month, which is going to be If Santa Had Therefore. It's going to be on Tuesday, December 16th at 10 a.m. I do have the link here. I'll post that into the chat if you guys are keen to attend. I'll type it here, everyone. Right. So if you look at the webinar chat, you'll see a link that you can use to register for the webinar. So I'd be very happy if all of you guys attend this final humorous, lighthearted December webinar, If Santa Had Therefore. And that concludes the webinar that we have for today. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for attending. I know there are so many important things to do, and it really means a lot that you take the time out of your busy day to learn about the new features and therefore spend time with me, ask questions. And I sincerely hope that I was able to bring some insights into what's coming in the new version of Therefore. For those of you who did have questions, please email me, especially regarding the Lithuanian support. Send me maybe a sample document and we can try just see how we can test it on our side. So once again, thank you guys so much for this wonderful morning. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.